Dave Chappelle says the lawsuit against Shannon Sharpe is a setup. He claims powerful people are funding it to shut Shannon down because Club Shay Shay was exposing too much. After the viral Cat Williams interview, where big-name celebrities were called out, Shannon started facing serious backlash. Then suddenly, he's hit with a lawsuit from Gabriella Zuniga, who accuses him of misconduct. But Dave says this isn't a coincidence. At the same time, rumors say Shannon was blackmailing celebrities by keeping damaging footage from interviews and using it for leverage. That's when things really started to spiral. The lawsuit dropped right before Shannon was set to close a $100 million podcast deal. Now people are questioning whether this was ever about justice or if it was all about stopping that deal from happening. So is Shannon guilty of something? Or was he just getting too powerful? According to Dave Chappelle, this was never about what Shannon did. It was about shutting him up before he went any further. Dave Chappelle was one of the first to call out what was really happening. Right after news broke about Shannon Sharpe getting sued, Dave went public saying it wasn't just about the allegations, it was a takedown. The woman suing Shannon, Gabriella Zuniga, claimed he mistreated her in multiple ways. But according to Dave, she isn't acting alone. He says she's being backed by powerful people who want Shannon's platform gone. Why? Because Club Shay Shay has been calling out celebrities, exposing behind-the-scenes drama, and giving people like Cat Williams and Monique a space to speak freely. Dave warned Shannon early on. When Club Shay Shay started blowing up, Dave told him to be careful. It wasn't just a podcast anymore. It was starting to look like a place where famous people were getting exposed, and in Hollywood, that's dangerous. Dave pointed to Cat's viral interview, saying it crossed a line, not because Cat spoke the truth, but because he focused on tearing down other black celebrities. Dave questioned, what part of the game is this? Calling it out as a violation of loyalty and survival. In his eyes, taking food off someone's plate is the same as trying to destroy them. He also said it hit harder when a black man does it to another black man, and Shannon gave Cat the mic. To Dave, this wasn't just risky, it was reckless. And when certain celebrities saw Shannon as a threat, Dave believes they moved to take him out before he got even bigger. That's when the lawsuit dropped. And from that moment, the focus shifted. From the truth behind Club Shay Shay to tearing down Shannon Sharpe's name. As the lawsuit gained traction, a new rumor started making rounds, one that painted Shannon in an even darker light. Word on the street was that he wasn't just exposing celebrities on his podcast. He was allegedly using the interviews to collect dirt, and then holding that dirt for leverage. According to these rumors, Shannon would let his guests talk freely during recordings, sometimes even saying things they didn't expect would make it to air. But then, instead of releasing the full interviews, Shannon would edit out the most damaging parts, and allegedly, he kept those clips, not for protection, but for power. Some sources even claimed Shannon used those unreleased moments to pressure people behind the scenes. Whether it was to gain favor, silence criticism, or hold sway in Hollywood, no one knows for sure. But once these claims surfaced, it gave Shannon's critics a new narrative to push. If true, this would explain why the lawsuit came so fast, and why it landed right before his rumored $100 million podcast deal. A deal that would give him a massive platform and even more influence. And here's what made it all more suspicious. The lawsuit was filed just one day before that deal was supposed to go public. It wasn't just about the claims made by Gabriella Zuniga anymore. It was about timing, motive, and control. Shannon's team fired back, calling the entire thing blackmail against him. They said this wasn't about justice. It was about ruining his reputation before he leveled up. And in court filings, they claimed the accuser tried to settle behind closed doors for millions. So now the question isn't just whether Shannon did anything wrong, it's whether someone out there wanted him stopped before he got any more powerful. Everything changed the day Cat Williams sat down with Shannon Sharpe. That interview didn't just go viral, it exploded. Over 80 million views, making it the most watched interview on the platform. But the views weren't what made it dangerous. It was what Cat said. He didn't hold back. He called out names, exposed behind-the-scenes drama, and took aim at some of the biggest black entertainers in Hollywood. Cedric the Entertainer, Kevin Hart, Steve Harvey. Cat accused them of stealing jokes, faking their images, and playing dirty to get ahead. That one episode flipped the industry on its head. Fans loved it. But behind the scenes, it hit a nerve. Not just because of what was said, but where it was said. These weren't YouTubers airing gossip. This was one celebrity giving another celebrity a platform to air decades of dirty laundry. And that made it personal. Dave Chappelle was quick to speak out. He didn't defend the celebrities Kat called out, but he questioned the move itself. He asked, "What part of the game is this?" Meaning, why are we turning on each other in front of the world? In Dave's eyes, Shannon crossed a line by giving that moment a spotlight. Cat Williams was hurt, sure, but instead of healing, he went on attack mode, and Shannon handed him the mic. The moment that interview went live, it didn't just stain the people Cat named, it put a target on Shannon too. Because now, Club Shay Shay wasn't just a sports podcast. It became a stage for takedowns, and Hollywood doesn't forget when you give someone the power to burn bridges in front of millions. The fallout was instant. Respect turned into resentment. Loyalty became a question mark. And the people Shannon once sat beside were now wondering if he was the next one to betray them on camera. That's when things really started getting messy. After Kat's interview aired, the backlash was immediate, especially from the celebrities he targeted. Cedric the Entertainer was one of the first to respond. Kat accused him of stealing jokes and pretending they were his own. Cedric didn't take that lightly. He clapped back on Instagram saying his legacy couldn't be reduced to one joke. He reminded people that he starred in over 40 movies and built a respected brand, one that, ironically, helped Kat's rise too. Cedric didn't just defend himself, he made it clear he was done playing nice. And he wasn't alone. Kevin Hart followed up with one of the hardest punches. He didn't waste time on subtlety. He flat out called Kat a clown and said he belonged in a circus. But behind the insult was something deeper. Kevin believed Kat wasn't being real. He was being bitter. According to Kevin, Kat didn't get blackballed from Hollywood for speaking the truth. He lost his place because he was unreliable, hard to work with, and kept missing opportunities. In Kevin's eyes, Kat had no one to blame but himself. The tension between Kat and Kevin wasn't new, but this interview brought it back to life. Kevin even went on The Breakfast Club to explain why Kat's downfall wasn't some conspiracy. It was self-destruction. He said Kat had the shot, he had the platform, but he blew it by not showing up, skipping promo, and becoming a risk to studios. So when Kat used Club Shay Shay to flip the narrative, Kevin saw it as payback, a last attempt to stay relevant by tearing others down. And that didn't sit right with him, or with a lot of people in the industry. But here's the part everyone noticed. The anger wasn't just aimed at Kat, it started to shift towards Shannon, because he was the one who gave Kat the space. He was the one who let that entire rant go unchallenged, and in an industry built on image and reputation, that move didn't just burn bridges, it made enemies. If Kat Williams cracked the door open, Monique kicked it off the hinges. Her appearance on Club Shay Shay turned up the heat even more. She didn't dance around the drama, she named names: Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, Kevin Hart. The biggest power players in Hollywood weren't safe. Monique had her own history of being blackballed. Years ago, she refused to do unpaid press for the movie Precious, and according to her, that's when everything changed. She said Tyler and Oprah turned their backs on her, and once they did, so did the rest of the industry. From movie roles to brand deals, it all dried up overnight. That wasn't just a personal loss, it was a public exile. But on Club Shay Shay, she wasn't just telling her story. She was pointing fingers, calling out hypocrisy, and making it clear she hadn't forgotten who tried to silence her. She also exposed Kevin Hart for allegedly playing both sides, pretending to support her in private while ghosting her and siding with Hollywood in the end. At that point, people started wondering, what exactly was Shannon Sharpe doing with his platform? First Cat Williams, now Monique, both airing industry secrets, both taking aim at black celebrities, and both getting massive attention for it. Some critics started accusing Shannon of pushing an agenda, not against Hollywood, but against his own. They said he was giving space to black entertainers who had been cast out, letting them tear down other black icons who were still standing. Even rapper Mace called him out. He said Shannon went quiet when white people disrespected him, but got loud when it was another black person in the hot seat. That double standard didn't go unnoticed, and it only added fuel to the growing backlash. D.L. Hughley even said Shannon's show was becoming more about mess than meaning. He compared Club Shay Shay to a fitness-obsessed version of Wendy Williams, filled with drama, gossip, and personal attacks dressed up as interviews. By the time Monique's episode ended, it was clear Shannon Sharpe had crossed a line, and the industry was no longer watching his podcast for entertainment, they were watching for damage control. Right as the heat around Club Shay Shay reached its peak, the lawsuit dropped, and it hit like a bomb. Gabriella Zuniga, the woman behind the case, accused Shannon Sharpe of serious misconduct. She claimed he forced himself on her, ignored her pleas to stop, and recorded intimate moments without her consent. The accusations were explosive, but the timing made them even more suspicious. The lawsuit was filed just one day before news broke that Shannon was about to sign a podcast deal, reportedly worth over $100 million. That kind of deal would have taken Club Shay Shay to another level, and given Shannon even more reach and influence. But instead of celebrating a win, he was suddenly fighting for his reputation. Gabriella's lawyer, Tony Busby, said Shannon offered her $10 million to settle and make the whole thing go away. Shannon's team confirmed that an offer was made, but said it was about ending a smear campaign, not admitting guilt. According to them, Gabriella rejected the money and went public anyway. From that point on, both sides started going to war in the media. Gabriella said she was 19 when their relationship started, and Shannon was in his 50s. She described moments where she begged him to stop, and he didn't listen. She also claimed he shared private videos with his friends, without her permission. Shannon's team responded by releasing old text messages they said came from Gabriella. Explicit, over-the-top messages meant to show that she was a willing participant in everything. They also accused her of editing a secret recording to make a consensual moment look like something it wasn't. In their words, the entire lawsuit was an egregious attempt at blackmail, but Gabriella's lawyer pushed back hard. He said the texts were from before the alleged assault, and that Shannon's team was trying to shift focus. Then, he released his own evidence, text messages where Gabriella told Shannon he had crossed the line. In one message, she wrote, "No means no, Shannon." He also leaked audio recordings. In one, Shannon could allegedly be heard threatening to choke her. In another, he made disturbing comments about a big black guy choking a small white woman. Her lawyer called the clips aggressive, dangerous, and clear proof of abuse. At this point, the story stopped being about one woman and one man. It became a high-stakes battle of power, image, and destruction on both sides. Once both sides started releasing receipts, the situation escalated fast. Shannon's team went first, dropping graphic texts they claimed Gabriella had sent during their relationship. These messages were explicit, filled with wild fantasies and over-the-top language. The goal was clear: to prove the relationship was consensual, and to paint Gabriella as someone with a motive. One text read, "I want you to put a dog collar around my neck and choke me with it." Another said, "$25,000 for each cheek. Only if you put that baby gravy in me." It was shocking, and Shannon's team used it to argue that the relationship wasn't just consensual, it was mutually intense. But Gabriella's lawyer, Tony Busby, wasn't rattled. He clapped back immediately, saying those texts were from before the alleged assault ever happened. Then, he released his own texts, ones where Gabriella said she cried after Shannon ignored her pleas, refused protection, and crossed boundaries she clearly didn't consent to. She wrote, "No means no, Shannon. And I don't know how to process this," and it didn't stop at texts. Busby released audio of Shannon allegedly threatening Gabriella. In one clip, he could be heard saying, "If you say that word one more time, I'm going to choke the fun out of you when I see you." In another, he joked about being a big dark guy choking a small white woman. Gabriella's team said this wasn't role play or fantasy. It was verbal proof of a toxic, dangerous situation. Shannon's side denied it all. They claimed the audio was taken out of context, heavily edited, and meant to destroy his name. They said Gabriella was manipulating public opinion and trying to derail his career with shock value and false narratives. At that point, The legal case became a public circus. Every day brought new evidence, new claims, and more damage. For every text Shannon's side released, Gabriella's team had a reply. For every audio leak, there was a counter-explanation. But in the court of public opinion, the damage was done. Shannon was no longer seen as just a podcast host or sports analyst. He was now at the center of one of the most controversial battles in entertainment, and all of this was happening just as he was supposed to close the biggest deal of his career. The timing of everything was too perfect, or too suspicious, depending on how you look at it. Just as Shannon Sharpe was about to land a massive $100 million podcast deal, the lawsuit dropped. His name was dragged through headlines, social media was flooded with reactions, and suddenly, the biggest opportunity of his career was at risk, and that's exactly what Dave Chappelle warned about. From the beginning, Dave said this wasn't just about a personal conflict. It was a calculated move to stop Shannon before he got too big to control. Shannon had built Club Shay Shay from the ground up, turned it into one of the most watched interview platforms in the game, and gave guests space to speak freely. But that freedom came with consequences. When people like Cat Williams and Monique start calling out billion-dollar names on your show, the industry takes notice, and not in a good way. You stop being just a host and start becoming a liability. That $100 million deal would have made Shannon untouchable. It would have taken Club Shay Shay to a level where he didn't need the approval or protection of anyone in Hollywood. He would have had money, reach, and influence. And if he was really sitting on unreleased footage from past guests like the rumors say, that would have made him dangerous to the very people who built the system. So now, instead of celebrating a huge win, Shannon's fighting for his reputation in court. His name is tied to controversy, his character is being picked apart, and the deal that once seemed guaranteed is hanging by a thread. And all of it leads back to one question. Was Shannon really guilty of everything he's accused of, or was he targeted before he could become too powerful to stop? Dave Chappelle said it best, taking a man's livelihood is like ending him, and in Shannon Sharpe's case, that might be exactly what's happening. From viral interviews to sudden lawsuits, this wasn't just a fall from grace. It was a coordinated effort to knock him out of the game before he reached the next level. What started as a podcast became a platform for truth, at least, depending on who you ask. But that truth came with a cost. Shannon gave space to voices the industry wanted to ignore. And now, some believe he's paying the price for it. The accusations against him are serious. The details are disturbing. But so is the timing. So are the rumors about blackmail, hidden footage, and pressure behind the scenes. Whether he's guilty or not, one thing is clear. Powerful people didn't want Shannon Sharpe going any further. This wasn't just about one interview, or one guest, or even one lawsuit. This was about what happens when you start exposing the wrong people in a world that thrives on silence. And if Dave Chappelle's warning means anything, Shannon Sharpe may not be the last one they try to shut down.